What is up, Raider Nation? Your buddy Murf back once again for part 2 of our Star Wars. It's a Star Wars celebration, of course, but it's a way for us to protest this stupid Super Bowl that's going on tomorrow. We decided that for those of you that missed part 1, we decided that we didn't want to do a show where we were going to talk about the Super Bowl. We wanted to talk about something completely different and completely off the rails of what we would normally talk about around here in Murph's Fan Cave. And so we decided we were going to talk about the wars, and I invited two of my very good friends, Kevin the Raider Nerd and Aaron the Q-Dog Raider, to talk a little wars with me here in the Fan Cave. And we had such an absolute blast, good time talking about Star Wars. We ended up going almost 3 hours. And so instead of making it into one episode, I cut these things up into 2 episodes. So you've got part 1 already on the network if you haven't seen it yet. And if you haven't, go back and watch that one first, and then come back and watch this one. So we talked about so many cool things and fun things in general about Star Wars. We really start to drill into it for you Raider fans out there, which almost all of you are, I would imagine, that watch this show, other than the occasional Chiefs fan that pops into our chat. But we really dig in on the Raiders, connections to the Star Wars, some commonality between George Lucas and Al Davis. We talk a lot about, we're all over the place. Talk about diversity in Star Wars. We talk about all kinds of different stuff. We get into some of our own relations back to the saga. Kevin's got some amazing stories about that. We talk about, of course, The Mandalorian. Like, it's just whatever. It's a Star Wars show. So enjoy that. Here we go. Part 2 of the Raiders Fan Radio Super Bowl Star Wars protest show. Thanks, guys.
Work into it. And speaking of work, what are your top 3 Raiders moments or scenes or comments there, Murph?
Top 3 moments in Star Wars?
Yeah. I mean, what scenes burn to the back of your brain, bro?
There's appreciate you asking, Aaron. We call that a segue.
He's been the king of the segue tonight.
So I'm telling you, man, Aaron's a pro, man. He needs his own show. We need to get an Aaron the Q-Dog Raider podcast on the Phantom Podcast Network and then share it over.
Until I retire, fellas. Once I retire, maybe.
Anything that has those, those moments. I mentioned it earlier. Like, to me, like, Star Wars is about the moments. That's when it draws that emotion out of you, so anyways, I'll give you a few of them. I already mentioned the Luke Skywalker moment in Mandalorian, not to be a prisoner of the moment, but the impact that had on me when we saw that, and like the nostalgia of it, and again, just snapped me back to being 10 years old. I got to put that on the list for a top 3. My favorite, or one of my favorite exchanges ever, is Han and Leia before he's going into to be frozen in carbonite, and and it's an impromptu line by Harrison Ford in the moment. Like, the original line is Carrie Fisher saying "I love you" to him, and he says "I love you too," which is a very Lucas thing to say, but he just freaking dropped that cold "I know," and like that, like, epitomized who Han Solo was. And so that, to me, is like, that was, even as a kid, like, that resonated with me. I'm like, I know, like, it just, that was so good. But then I think my just from a nostalgia perspective, but like, again, when I say that, when Star Wars presents you with a thing and you come away with that from that moment, or that thing, with more questions than you had going in, it was the Vader Obi-Wan fight in episode 4. It was their encounter. And I'll never forget, like, even as a little kid, seeing that saber swipe through and Obi-Wan's robe, and it just going to nothing. And Vader goes with his foot and he kind of tamps down on it. It was like, where did he go? Well, it was like, and of course he delivers the line, "If you strike me down, I will become more powerful than you could possibly imagine." And it's like, whoa, what happened there? Like, and so that epitomizes to me what good Star Wars is. Like, that rhythm of that you have this classic matchup between these two characters. It's visually striking. It's like you're seeing something you've never seen before. You're seeing emotion out of Skywalker. You're seeing all this other stuff going on. And then it comes all the way down to these two guys, and they have this bit of dialogue, and then something happens you don't expect. He doesn't strike him down. It's not a violent, death. It's not any, and it's frankly not a death at all. It's a.
But you know what, Murph? You know, that's perfect. But let me go ahead and just take it back, maybe 30 minutes.
Okay.
That's, you see recurring themes in Star Wars. Brian Johnson went for that moment that you so eloquently illustrated and how it impacted you whenever Luke Skywalker confronted Kylo Ren from afar, and then Kylo swings and there's nothing, and he failed. However, Lucas got it right in episode 4 whenever Vader confronted his former master and he swung and struck him down and there was nothing there but the Force Ghost. That's what ticks me off about episode 8. But you're right. Now, you gave us 2 solid ones. What's that third one, bro? That third scene that resonated with you.
Well, I'd say the I love you, I know, and then the Mandalorian scene, and then that one. That's probably the biggest. If I got to give you just another one to throw in, since I already talked about the Mandalorian one, Luke and Yoda training on Dagobah, like that. Yeah. That there was a lot of emotional resonance there, and I'll just give you an example when. Luke says, I can't. And Yoda tells him, and that is why you fail. And then lifts the freaking X-Wing out of the water. That music that's playing is my all-time favorite out of any movie ever in the history of all movies. That is my all-time favorite soundtrack music. And when that Yoda theme hits and that freaking X-Wing pulls up out of that swamp and drifts back over their heads, and Luke is like, oh crap, size matters not all of a sudden. Like that, I'm getting chills, man. 47 years old, and I'm getting chills talking about that movie. That was just, those exchanges that Yoda has with Luke during his training, and of course, and that's when he's leaving training. But like that part of it, Aaron, just absolutely resonates with me. How about you? Give me your top 3 moments or scenes from the shows or the movies.
Well, I'm not trying to hijack anything. I'm going to defer to Kevin on this one because I know he's got some gold.
Okay. All right.
So being, what was the term you used? Being captured in the moment, or what was it?
Prisoner prisoner of recency, you can call it. Yeah.
Yes. It's obvious, the Luke Skywalker reveal. But to me, when a scene is important to you, it has to resonate for a while. You have to rewatch it. You have to come back to it. You have to see other ones. And that Luke Skywalker one obviously is a contender. And it still gets to me. Also in The Mandalorian, seeing Boba Fett come back in action, one of the most famous characters of all time, going in like a into that Sarlacc pit with the Wilhelm scream, never to be seen from again, being told that he was dead, coming back to life and opening up a can of whoop ass on some 501st Legion members with that gaffy stick was one of my, and just being shot in that Robert Rodriguez way was just beautiful. The other thing that I want to give a shout out to is seeing Ahsoka reveal herself as the Fulcrum in Star Wars Rebels, and seeing her come back and I got to share that live with my daughter, and the emotion that we were sharing. But the scene that is my favorite Star Wars moment of all time is in Return of the Jedi. It's when it's at the Ewok village. Leia and in my favorite Leia costume with the long hair and the Ewok village made threads, whatever you want to call it, sees Luke leaving and she follows him. That whole scene of Leia being confronted by Luke about the true story of their lineage and seeing her reaction, the disgust on her face about learning about Vader. I absolutely love that scene because that's when Luke has to stand up and say, this is what our family is now. I have to go do this. But the scene doesn't end there because it's 3 defining character moments with Luke and Leia. And then you see Luke take off. Han comes in going, what was that all about? And she's distraught. She starts to cry. Han does the guy thing. Like, what? You could tell Luke?
Yeah. Yeah. Uh-huh.
And this is the moment. It's not the moment when Leia gets shot at the bunker scene later on, and Han is telling her, and she has the gun, about ready to shoot the stormtroopers, and he goes, "I love you," and she goes, "I know."
I know.
That's not when he falls in love with her or starts to prove that he falls in love with her. It's when he finally starts to walk away and he goes, "Wait a minute, she's in trouble here. I got to be there for her." And he goes over to her, and she says, "Hold me," and he does. That's the moment when those two need to be together, and it still gets to me. That's it.
Well done, Kevin.
I absolutely love that scene. I can watch that over and over again, because that scene right there defines why those are the big three characters, because they share a moment there together, and you really don't get to see that again. I mean, yes, you see the celebration scene at the end, but this is when you really get to see them talking and passing off this wonderful conversation. And I'm choking up thinking, and hair on my arms are standing up right now, even thinking about it. So that's the scene.
Well done, Kevin. That's deep, man. And that's that's when the thing that, like, I just said Star Wars is at its best when it's moments, but there's so much depth to Star Wars. And I think that's what gets lost at times when people just call this nerd stuff or whatever, is that, this isn't sci-fi, it's space fantasy. And there's depth to it that's not represented and I'm not crapping on it, but things like Star Trek and other things, the depth of the story, the philosophy behind it, you know what I mean? The conviction, the morality, the things that are in Star Wars don't really exist in a lot of other genres and verses. And I like a lot of things. I like Lord of the Rings, and I like, Harry Potter stuff, and I love Indiana Jones. I like a lot of different verses, Marvel and all that stuff, but nothing hits the depth of Star Wars. Aaron, before we move on from it, before we get to quotes, you want to share any moments from any of the movies?
I'm not going to be able to top that, but I'm big into Star Wars theory, the possibilities. And so from Attack of the Clones, you see young Anakin, the Padawan. He's chasing after the assassin, and he jumps out of the speeder and just drops and drops and drops and drops and drops. And, lands on the speeder that the getaway for the assassin and everything like that. And then you fast forward to episode 3, Mace Windu, whenever he's struck down by the Emperor thanks to the help of Anakin, and then he's forced via Force lightning out onto the mean, gritty skies of Coruscant. What makes you think that Mace Windu is actually dead? If you've got a young Padawan that can navigate the free-falling skies and then land exactly where he wants to be, yet Mace Windu is far and away the second or third, depending on which avenue of dogma you want to go down as far as canon is concerned, out that window, missing his right hand. And you mean to tell me that killed him? No. Falling from that pane of glass from that lofty height in the Emperor's chambers is child's play. Mace Windu is alive, and I'm dying to find out where and when he resurfaces.
Yes.
There you go. Yeah, Mace lives, baby.
I love it, man. I love it, man.
I'll raise this cup to you, Murf.
Hey, salute. Because you know what? Hey, if they could bring Darth freaking Maul back, don't tell me they can't bring Mace Windu back. And, look, and we just talked about it with the latest the documentary
with Luke. Yeah.
Yes, they brought Luke back, and they de-aged him. They just did it in the 30 for 30, Al Davis versus
you
the
think
NFL.
Samuel Jackson's going to turn down a reprisal? Come on, he's going to do it.
No, he's lobbied for it. Like, you know what I mean? Like one of my favorite Sam Jackson stories too, when it comes to Star Wars, was when when Lucas asked him if he wanted to be part of Star Wars, and he said, and they gave him the opportunity to pick out his lightsaber, and he was like, "Yeah, okay, I'll do it, but I want a purple lightsaber. I want something completely different." And put Bad Mother
Effer on it. You gotta have a purple one, right?
Put Bad Mother Effer on it, man, and they did. That's the kicker to the story, is that he had Bad Mother Effer written on his freaking lightsaber.
And you could call this. You could call the story Isla Mary on a starship. There you go.
Love it, man. Yeah, I'm with you, Aaron. I can't wait to see how they bring him back, and you know he's coming back. If they're bringing everybody else back, they're going to bring him back too. All right, so let's go to some quotes. All right, Kevin,
All right.
let's start with you. What are some of your favorite Star Wars quotes?
Oh my gosh. I think there's two, and they they involve Han.
He's got
I
most of the best lines.
yeah, the original Star Wars is, I love the whole boring conversation thing, and him just trying to work that as best as he can, negative, we have a reactor leak here. Give us a few minutes to lock it down. Large leak, very dangerous. Who is this? What's your operating number? Boring conversation. Anyway, Luke, we're gonna have company.
So good.
The other line I love
Yes.
is the hallway, or I think it was the hallway scene in Hoth, or maybe it was the scene when Luke was in the back to tank, and she goes, "Why, you stuck up, half-witted, scruffy-looking nerf herder," and he decides to just focus in on scruffy looking.
Yeah.
Look, it's still making me laugh today. Freaking over 40 years later, I love it. It's great.
He's funny when he gets mad. That's my favorite Han Solo's when the hydro spanner.
That's basically saying, I know I'm stuck up. I know I'm half-witted. Yeah. I know I heard nerf, but come on, scruffy looking, give me a break.
The best. So good. Aaron, what about you, man? What's some of your favorite lines?
Oh man, I got several of them. Me and my brother, we go back and forth, and we've always liked Darth Vader because, we take it or leave it. I mean, we always, say that Darth Vader's a brother. So, one of his lines that we always like to say to each other is like, impressive, most impressive.
Yes.
Oh yeah.
From episode 4, what is it? Episode 5. But you had mentioned earlier whenever Joe's size matters not, whenever he raises the X-wing out of the bog. But the line right after the line that you had mentioned is probably more poignant. It's I don't believe it. That is why you fail.
That is, yeah.
Yep.
That's something that resonates with me. I'm a big Yoda guy because of the way that he speaks and stuff like that. All Patrick Mahomes like, but he he hits you with those bolos, man. He hits you in the gut and then to the head. Do or do not. There is no try. I say that to my employees all the time.
Yep.
I mean, try is what you do when you fail. Either you get the job done or you fail trying.
Sound
Period.
advice. Still works.
Yeah, it still works, man.
I agree. Thank you for that, Capo, because I think I blew that line earlier when I said I can't or whatever. But you're right. You're right. That Yoda line is
No. You nailed it. You nailed your line. There was just another line right after that. Both are gold.
So good, man. And that, yeah, the do or do not, there is no try. That's probably like, that's the Hall of Fame of freaking, dialogue when it comes to, and not same. I tell my kids that all the time. It's like, it's a really good mantra, frankly, to live by. Like,
hell
like
yeah.
you're either on the boat or you're off the boat. Like it's either one or the other. You know what I mean? You can't try to quit smoking. You're either a smoker or you're not. You're either pregnant or you're not. Like there is no, you know what I mean? Like it's one or the other, man. And so I'm with you on that. All right, so it's, and I'm glad I asked you guys first because you guys hit on a lot of the ones that I was going to mention. Of course, the Love You, I Know, and then the return serve from Princess Leia in Jedi is excellent. But one of my favorite characters, and we're going to talk about favorite good guys here next. So I'm going to reveal one of my 3 favorite good guys is Lando. And I mentioned that when I got older, that I appreciated what Lando, like the spirit of Lando was different than when I was a kid. And when he first lays eyes on Princess Leia and he says, well, what do we have here? Like that is like so money, man. I freaking love that. And like, the spirit of Lando Calrissian in Empire is just, it's unmatched. Donald Glover, excellent job of playing Lando, and I think he did a very good job of bringing that Billy D spirit. But like Billy D and Lando are kind of the same guy, And so,
Yeah, oh yeah,
you know what I mean? And so that delivery of that
There
line,
wasn't a lot of range in that performance.
really not, right? Like, and that's not a bad thing because he's the
Hey, but
coolest.
Kevin and Murph. Now that you mentioned that scene that you just went through reciting, I want you to go back and watch Empire, and I want you to look at Chewie. Chewie's character, whenever he lays that rap down, it's gold. It's revealing.
Oh yeah.
Chewie's like,
Yep.
bro, you got to watch it again.
Okay,
Chewie is gold on that episode.
That's awesome, man. So how about you all? So that's kind of my, I mentioned Lando. I'll give you two more, and I could get into these guys for a long time. My other two favorite characters are Obi-Wan and Han Solo. Obi-Wan, to me, the doctrine that he follows, like the whole like reveal of like old Ben in episode 4, and talk about throwing down that philosophy, like all those things that he tells Luke, and he explains to him about this was your father's saber and blah blah blah, and like all that stuff, all that exchange that they have. Alec Guinness's delivery, the return, you know what I mean? First you hear him as a voice, and then in Empire you see him as a visage in the background in the snow of Hoth. And then by the time we get to Return of the Jedi, he's actually sitting on a log. He's becoming more physical, more like, and just like, he just kind of represents that sage, that wisdom of the original trilogy is what Obi-Wan is. And how often is that just such a pop culture term now? Like when you say like, that's my Obi-Wan, like that's my mentor, like that's my, you know what I mean? And so that character just really has resonated, meant a lot to me. Han Solo.
Hey, Murph,
yes.
You just reminded me, since you talked about Obi-Wan, one of the best lines of all time. And I don't know, I mean, it just made me laugh. Episode 1, Phantom Menace. Ewan McGregor went full Scottish when he said, Sith Lords, they are specialty. I'm like, this pompous bastard. He's never encountered a Sith, but they're his specialty.
That's episode 3. That's episode 3.
Did I mess that up?
Yeah, it's episode 3.
I thought it was whenever he confronted I thought it was episode 1 whenever they were in the hangar and they were getting ready to take care of Maul while the rest of the
no.
Did I get it wrong?
Yeah, sorry.
Damn. Are you sure?
Yeah.
Hey, but I gotta say though,
speciality.
But I will compliment this about you. And first off, we didn't even talk about the upcoming series, but the Obi-Wan series is by far the one I'm most excited about in terms of the upcoming new Star Wars that's coming out on the Disney Plus. Yeah. But there's a moment in Duel of the Fates, which and I got to drop something else on you guys too after this. Okay. I'm gonna try to keep in my own here. This is what's so crazy about Star Wars. You can just go so many different directions. So during Duel of the Fates, Qui-Gon dies, right? Darth Maul kills him, and one of the chillest freaking things, Obi-Wan, like the ultimate freaking, like, again, he's all about that doctrine. He's all about the Jedi. He's all about that. When he's waiting for that laser door to open, what's he doing? He's just kneeling. He's just like, and he's like, there's this calmness about him. You look at the bad guy. What's Darth Maul doing? He's pacing back and forth. Like he's like Ray Park, man. He's ready to pounce like at any time. And Obi-Wan just brings it all the way down, man. Like that spirit, like of what that character is, just, I think is just absolutely incredible. So I really dig it. Okay. I'm going to throw one other thing on you too, not to go all the way back and revert, but it's something I learned not that long ago. The idea of the title of the song Duel of the Fates, that epic dun, 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 that we all know, right? From episode 1. Duel of the Fates always meant to me like the fate of these guys that are fighting, these two Jedi and this one, Sith Lord, hand of the Empire, whatever, right? That's not what they're fighting over. The Duel of the Fate is the fate of Anakin Skywalker. Because if Qui-Gon doesn't die, he becomes the father figure for young Anakin Skywalker, who will then maybe never turn to the dark side because he never experiences that first sense of loss. The Duel of the Fate is the fate of Anakin, which was like, somebody dropped that on me and it was like, I'm like, whoa, like that makes a lot of sense, right? Anyways, I kind of sidetracked there. Kevin, who's your favorite characters?
I want to give a shout out to obviously Fett and Maul. They're my honorable mentions. I absolutely love Maul. That Duel of the Fates is one of the best lightsaber fights, and just the reaction that Ray Park brings to his face. I absolutely love it. Fett, even before Mandalorian, still one of my favorites. I mean, how can you look so cool and become one of the most iconic characters, in a short amount of time that you were? My top three, I'm going to go with, first of all, at number three, I'm going to go with Ahsoka. She is one of the most best written and developed characters throughout all of Star Wars, and brilliantly voiced by Ashley Eckstein. And then finally come to life, of course, by Rosario Dawson. But a lot of this goes to Ashley, because she just embodied this character
awesome.
so well.
Yeah.
It's wonderful. Number two is Luke. Luke, obviously, for obvious reasons. There was, a lot of people growing up when I was younger, you're like, you were the Han guy or you're a Luke guy. I was a Luke guy. As much as Han had the best car, Luke was my hero, because I felt like I was watching Star Wars through his eyes. Number one by far, and Han Solo would not be where he is Chewbacca. Chewbacca is my favorite Star Wars character of all time. He has these little moments, and I love what you got to see in Solo absolutely of this. You really got to see sort of Chewbacca's backstory to a certain degree, and I absolutely love his character, and Han is who he is because Chewbacca allows him to be.
Well done, Kevin. Dig it, man. That's cool, dude. That's adding a lot of depth to Chewie's character, who's effectively the dog riding shotgun, right? But You're right. Like, all those things are absolutely true, what you just said.
Real quick, Aaron, the speciality Sith Lord thing, that's when they're trying to rescue, as I guess, was it Palpatine, and he's still in the chair captive. And that's when he says, but he's a Sith Lord. And of course, Count Dooku's right there. That's what that was.
Ah, okay.
Yeah.
Aaron, how about you, man? Who are some of your favorites?
Well, I say number three is Luke Skywalker. I mean, the whole series is about Luke. Anakin, I mean, he's a great vehicle, but Luke is the fuel for this whole series. Number two, I would have to go with the Emperor, Darth Sidious. He is the quintessential antagonist. He is the puppeteer. He is the Phantom Menace. And they even brought him back in episode 9. So, you get a lot of mileage out of that character. And then number one, I go with Yoda the Wise, the Grandmaster. You just got to go with him. I mean, it's not a bad 3-2-1, but I don't think I really stepped that far out in my 3-2-1. I mean, a lot of people probably echo the same. What about you, Murf?
Yeah, well, we kind of jumped around a little bit, but like my favorite, like the three good guys I mentioned were Obi-Wan, Han, and Lando. Of the bad guys, just to kind of give them honorable mentions, like you can't freaking like Darth Vader, right? Like, he's the bad guy of the bad guy. Like, he's the ultimate freaking villain. But I would tag that with Kylo and Darth Maul. I wish Darth Maul had more to do in the original prequel trilogy. Maul was brilliant in Clone Wars, voiced by Sam Witwer, and an incredible vocal talent. And I thought they did a lot of good with Maul when they brought him back to life, and eventually he takes the throne of Mandalore and wields the dark saber, and like where that character ends up going, I think is kind of what we all wanted to see, maybe on the silver screen instead. But as you mentioned, Ray Park, portraying him in real life. So that character I think is great. But I thought Adam Driver was great as Kylo Ren. I really like Kylo Ren, and despite the challenges of Last Jedi, he's so good in Force Awakens. And I love like when he killed Han Solo, I'll never forget driving home in the car with my family, looking at them going, Star Wars is all about redemption. Like, it's the whole crux of this whole thing is all about redemption. I don't know how you redeem that guy. He just killed Han Solo. Like, how do you bring that guy back? Like,
You don't.
But there's something about the way that and I'll get and I crapped on the sequel trilogy, and I still have so many reservations about that. But there's something about the comeback of Ben, and it could have been fleshed out differently. And I think that Jedi, if it would have served it up differently, could have been explored. But that idea that you redeemed this guy, like you brought him back, and he's a freaking, like he's the last Skywalker. You know what I mean? Like it's him.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I really I thought that was a little bit poetic. And I think that Kylo, while there's a blip on the radar, has a very interesting story arc. And frankly, as a bad guy, he looks badass. Like he's right up there with Darth Maul and Darth Vader, like as far as like look. Like, you know what I mean? Like he's a fantastic looking bad guy. So how about you, Kevin? You got any thoughts about the bad guys?
Maul, definitely. Darth Vader is probably he's always at the top of the list of the most iconic villains of all time. And he deservedly so, with the look and everything and the backstory. Definitely. I think, but like I said, Krennic is one of my favorite.
Oh yeah.
One of my favorite Imperial villains of all time. I just very well fleshed out character, and I want to go with Grand Moff Tarkin. What seeing him, just how grandiose and pompous that he was, and then you got to see that fleshed out even more in Rogue One. How he's like, I don't care how much work you've done on this, Krennic. This is now my project. I'm going to blow you up with your own weapon.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Kevin, there's not a lot of backstory that's given on screen, but if you actually go deeper, EU on this,
Tarkin, baby.
Moff Tarkin, Grand Moff Tarkin, because he was Moff Tarkin for a while. A lot of people don't know how he ascended to Grand Moff Tarkin, because of the heinous acts that he was able to execute on behalf of the Empire. That dude was gangster. He was the Vito Corleone of the doggone.
Yeah, there's a great book. There's a great book called Tarkin, if you're interested in that.
Yes, you're absolutely right.
Yep.
I don't want to give away too much.
And well done too in the Clone Wars when he was Admiral Tarkin, voiced by Stephen Stanton. I thought was fantastic, right? Like, great call out there, great character. Hey, I know we're starting to run long, guys. Are you good to hang in? I can make this.
Keep going. Hey, look, Rebel Force Radio goes 2.5 hours. We're fine. It's Star Wars. Let's do it. Keep going.
Okay, Aaron, you're good. You're good to hang in there.
It would be my honor.
All right, right on. Okay, because this is fun, man. I'm having a blast. I don't know about you guys.
Let the attack run begin.
All right, cool. All right, here we go. We're zooming into the trench. Here we go.
This battle station is fully operational.
Surrender in our moment of triumph. Yes, this battle station is fully operational. Let's roll. Okay, so let's go to, we have a feature on our show that Jason and Jimmy, I'm sorry, I stole this from you. You have a segment on your show on Rebel Force Radio, RFR, that's coincidental, but you have a segment on your show called Star Wars and Pop Culture. I stole that from you, and we do a segment called Raiders and Pop Culture, where we feature when the Raiders show up in commercials or movies or TV shows or songs or whatever else. So to go to back and to give those guys credit, because it's their idea, the Star Wars and pop culture, right? Star Wars was a nerd thing for a long, long time. And then all of a sudden, for me at least, like it's really showed up in a movie that I'm a huge fan of, and that is Clerks. And I'm a huge fan of Kevin Smith. Kevin Smith movies like Kevin, the Raider nerd, if you ever want to start an Skewniverse podcast on your show or on your network, pencil me in for I'm a junkie when it comes to Kevin Smith movies.
Okay.
And in the movie Clerks, they have an amazing series of references to Star Wars. And that movie came out in 94.
The Death Star contractors. Come on.
Exactly. That is one of the most amazing Star Wars.
He's supposed to be here today. He's off.
Exactly. And like they tie it back to like guys that are like doing the roof of like a gangster and well, that gangster got his house got shot up. And so those contractors knew who they were when they accepted the job. And so those stormtroopers that got blown up during the Death Star, like that was their own fault. Like it's an absolutely incredible, like thought-provoking, intelligent conversation that comes out of nowhere. This small independent film done in black and white in I think it was either 93 or 94, whenever Clerks came out. But like that to me was my absolutely all-time favorite Star Wars in pop culture reference. Aaron, how about you, man? What do you think?
I have nothing to add. You're on the money, and I concur completely. I mean, Clerks is very underrated and quite possibly might be an off-season special a la Star Wars.
Oh, love it. Love it.
Clerks. Rosario Dawson is prominently displayed in both as well.
Oh my
Thought
gosh.
I'd throw that out there.
She's incredible in Clerks too, man. Absolutely stunningly gorgeous and an amazing actress and so fun. Like she's
So
like,
charming.
exactly. And she's like, look, she's a legit actress and she's doing these movies that are loaded with dick and fart jokes. Like, it's just amazing that she like brings like that, like class to a movie like that. She's
Jersey
incredible.
Girls.
Yeah.
Jersey Girls, man.
Absolutely. Kevin, what's your favorite Star Wars and pop culture?
There's two, you know, and I go way back to when Donnie and Marie did a Star Wars routine and a dance and everything like that.
Big Marie or Little Marie?
Yeah. Regular Marie? I don't know.
Marie Light.
So the one that I remember the most first was Mark Hamill, R2-D2 showing up on the Muppets. The Muppet Show.
Oh, yes.
That was right after Empire Strikes Back, and that till today is one of the coolest things, and I love watching that. Now, I don't know if you would call this or it would be considered Star Wars and pop culture, but the greatest ode to Star Wars, in my opinion, is the movie Spaceballs by Mel Brooks.
Oh,
I don't know if you could call that Star Wars. It's more parody. I understand that. But the love and the tribute that they show to Star Wars and Star Trek and other shows, but mostly Star Wars in that movie is, in my opinion, one of the best tributes to Star Wars you could do. So
I see your Schwartz is as big as mine.
your father's brother's cousin's former roommate.
That's a great movie, man. You know, I love it when Mel Brooks goes through the teleporter thing and he comes out and his head's on backwards and he's looking down and he goes, "My ass. Why didn't somebody tell me my ass was this big?"
Spaceballs the flamethrower. Kids will love it.
That's a great call out, Kevin. That movie, it is. It's an absolute love letter to Star Wars and loaded with a bunch of great lines. Yeah, good stuff there. All right, guys, let's go to the next one. Aaron, let's go to you. If you could play any Star Wars background character, so if you could be the guy that's like this scene is going on and you're in the background, who are you? What spot? All the series, all the movies, or all the saga, all the movies. What do you pick?
I'm the hut guard next to the guard, behind the guard, with a full frontal view of Princess Leia in that slave outfit, chained to Jabba the Hutt. Full frontal view. That's who I am.
Not a bad spot.
Who else would I be? Murf. Who else would I be? I see him, and you see him too. Yeah.
True to form. True to form, Aaron. No doubt. That slave Leia costume is something else.
No Starlight Pit for me, homie.
All right, Kevin, who do you got?
One of the original Cantina aliens from the original Star Wars film. There's a character called Nabram Leeds. He's up. He has 4 arms. There's an action figure that's actually made of him. And he's up at the bar and he's kind of has this white outfit on with this weird kind of mask on. I always thought he was so cool. And he was a popular character in our Star Wars card game as well. So Nabram Leeds, look him up. He exists. There's an actual, there's a 3-figure alien set that you can buy from the Cantina. the kind of devil looking guy, and another one, and one of them's Abram leads, and he's in the middle, and he's part of that set.
That's awesome, man. All right. So I would pick one of the cantina scenes. I'd want to be somebody in the cantina. I'd want to be in either the one from episode 4 or even JJ's cantina. I want to be hanging out with Maz Kanata. You know what I mean? Like that would be pretty cool. Like probably, what was the name of that planet that she was on? It's escaping me at the moment, but like
it hasn't been around or long. It hasn't been around long enough in our lexicon for everyone to remember.
Takadona? Is it?
Sure.
I think it is. It's Takadona. and so I'd want to be a patron at Maz's, because her place looks a little more hip and fun.
Right.
Not disparaging. What's the band in the original cantina?
Figuring Dan in the modal nodes.
Thank you. There we go. Not to disparage those guys, but give me
the fact that he knew that is amazing.
That is amazing. And give me Lin-Manuel, who that did the
and the type of songs that they do is the Jizz Wailers.
Is it really?
Of course.
Yes.
I thought it was Rick James, but damn, I've been corrected.
So, but Maz Kanata's play, it's darn it, what's the name of that song? But it was written by Lin-Manuel, the guy that did Hamilton. No, that's the Muppets. But whatever, you guys know what I'm talking about.
You got me thinking of Benny Hill.
I'll think of it in a second. That's the heck of it of doing shows.
Yeah, it's an establishment where you'll probably live as you won't get killed in it. So,
yes, Jabba Flow is the name of the song.
There it is. Yeah,
Jabba Flow. I'd want to be somebody hanging out listening to Jabba Flow. Yeah, but okay. So that said, so here's some characters that we would want to be. But Kevin, you are an actual Star Wars character. I'm assuming this ties back to your time. Representing the Star Wars card game.
Yes.
Maybe that's where that came from. But tell us, you are canon. You're not Legends, you're legit canon. Tell us about that.
I actually have obscure Star Wars alien that has used my name as an anagram. And that came about before I was hired for the card game company. I was volunteering for them as a playtester. And they were playtesting the new Jabba's Palace playset. And the way things worked back in when it came to naming characters, a lot of main characters had names, so you couldn't change those because those were owned by Star Wars and Lucasfilm. But there was a lot of characters that didn't have name or designations. So they allowed Decipher, the company I worked for, to come up with a name, which did have to be approved by a Lucasfilm representative later on. And so they kind of had this way of coming up with names. And what they did as a secret for a while was that they took employees' names and people that were either helping with the game, volunteering, or what have you, and they would take their name and change it around in an anagram and make it a Star Wars-y name. And because I play tested on the Jabba's Palace set, there's a character in the Jabba's Palace scene that you see a couple of times. He's the character that loses his blaster when Luke uses the Force to grab it to him to point it at Jabba. Oh. He's a Jabba's Palace guard, but unfortunately, he's also one of the first Jabba's Palace guards to be thrown into the Sarlacc pit, and his name is Velkin Tazeri. There he is, right there. Let me. There it is, Velkin Tazeri. If you take my last name and my first name, with the exception of one I, that is my name as an official Star Wars character.
That is incredible.
Yep.
So cool, man.
Yes.
That is so cool, Kevin.
So a little claim to a Star Wars world I get to be part of, and something I'm very proud of. So there you go.
Absolutely.
So you were eaten by a Rancor.
Yes. I ended up in a Rancor, and I'm probably still digesting there. So yeah.
Yeah.
Well done.
Absolutely. Well done.
Most impressive. Most impressive.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir.
All right, here we go. Here's Jabba Flow. I found it.
Leave it to Murf to have Jabba gang signs. I love it.
I can't hear it, Murf. Can't hear it.
You can't hear it?
East side.
There you go.
Ipa tu tu moony moony. There we go.
Moony moony.
Oh my gosh, this is so fun. You guys are the best. All right, so let's move on to our next topic here. We've got a few more to get to tonight, and thank you for all of you that have been hanging in here. For those of you that are Raider fans that are waiting for us to talk about the Raiders, I promise we're gonna get to the Raiders real quick. And but first, I want to talk a little bit about So we've covered everything. We've covered all of the original movies. We've covered the sequel trilogy. We've covered the prequel trilogy. We've covered the TV shows, covered so much tonight. And one of the things about George Lucas that I even registered with me from early on as a kid was that he was willing to kind of break stereotype. He was willing to break through and to bring different actors and different characters to life that maybe hadn't been reflected on the silver screen, certainly not in the, of course, we said that the Star Wars is science fantasy, but any in the science fiction world, like you didn't see a lot of that, that type of like diversity and inclusion going on until really, it was really George Lucas. And there's a lot of things that are very similar about George Lucas to our own very Al Davis. Like a lot of the way that they came up through the ranks, the way that their conviction to the things that they loved. In Al Davis's case, it was football. In George Lucas's case, of course, it was filmmaking. Really came on with some early things in life that propelled them and enabled them to take on their true vision. In Al Davis's case, it was coming up through the AFL as a coach before he became then a commissioner, before he was granted all of the control of the greatest NFL franchise that's ever been created, and that is the Raiders. And his vision for what the Raiders were and what they are now today was different from anything that ever existed prior. And you could say the same thing about George Lucas, from THX 1138 and American Graffiti, and getting the juice to be able to present and pull off something like a Star Wars that was completely separate and completely different from anything that had ever have happened. And then amongst that, then continued then further to break barriers along the way. Now we've talked about George Lucas, like bringing on, a princess. Okay. But a princess that he gave a blaster to, and a princess that fought her way out and questioned her freaking rescuers along the way. He handed Lando a huge supporting role in the follow-up to that first movie. And then ultimately Lando, a black man, the only other man that blew up the Death Star. There's only two guys that have ever blown up Death Stars: Luke Skywalker and Lando Calrissian. Like the amount of like
a little help from Wedge, just saying.
Well, a little help from Wedge. But the amount of reverence, though, not to mention giving James Earl Jones the voice of Darth Vader, and like there's so much that need. And then you look at what Al Davis did and the way that he went to the historically black colleges. He went to, he hired the first Latino coach, hired the first female executive. Like the barriers that Al Davis broke and the barriers that George Lucas broke, I think are very, very similar. Sadly, also, you could say that both of those guys kind of lost their way towards what at the ends of their career. Maybe they kind of lost their way from what their original spirit of what they were doing was, that rebel spirit, that, you know what I mean? There might have been some confusion around what their own source material was, I think is a fair discussion to have. But what I want to say, what I want to highlight though, is that Star Wars celebrated something and brought about something with us as kids. I mean, all three of us were kids when this stuff came out, that didn't exist before. It certainly didn't exist in the forum that we were witnessing it happen. And I want to speak to that, and I want to celebrate that. And so Aaron, talk about that. Like, what is that? What did that mean to you as a kid? What did that feel like to you as a kid to see diversity on screen when it came to a galaxy far, far away?
That galaxy far, far away, a long time ago, you see on screen different species, and it just opened up infinite possibilities of what can come true. Ultimately, you've got good versus evil, you've got the light versus the dark, but across the gamut, you have all forms and fashions of creatures, great and small. And it's one of the greatest epics ever told, but you get to visualize it, and it's a space opera. I mean, of course, we've got the modern day edification of Hamilton, but before Hamilton, you had Star Wars. You had the various scenes, you had the various acts, you had the protagonist, antagonist, you had good versus evil. You had the underlying of uncertainty. You had the coming of age. Star Wars, in its original rollout, encapsulated the human condition. Even though it was seen in human form from time to time, you can look back at the great tragedies that were written out of, you know, Greek culture, Egyptian culture. I mean, some truths are just self-evident, and that's what Star Wars came to be. No matter who you were, no matter where you were from, you can see yourself in one of the characters, or you can align something that you've gone through what the story unfolded over the course of episodes and time. So, you know, not to get too overly deep with it, it was just a masterpiece. Fight on.
Love it. Love it, Kevin.
So, you know, as we speak of this recording, last night we had Al Davis versus the NFL documentary that hit on ESPN 30 for 30. What a lot of people may not realize is George Lucas was a maverick filmmaker, just as Al Davis was a maverick. He went through a lot of different hardships, and the way that he got like Star Wars funding or whatever funding was done in a maverick way. You know, Alan Ladd Jr. took a chance on him, but of course, before that, you know, he proved himself, of course, by American Graffiti, and Al Davis proved himself, and whether his early coaching or what have you, you know, getting help from the Bills owner at the time. Didn't he get like a loan from the Bills to kind of help him, you know, do what he needed to do for the Raiders and get that thing going? But back to George Lucas, you know how Star Wars movies open up and there's no opening credits? That was a huge no-no in Hollywood at the time.
Yeah.
He got fined, and he paid for that out of his own salary and his own winning or his own earnings from Star Wars. And he continued to do it. And so this got him not blacklisted, but basically put in the corner when it came to the Directors Guild and the Writing Guild. And he was really sick of the Hollywood way of supposedly making films. He wanted to do it his way. Around the same time that Al was getting the problems and wanting to move from the Bay Area down to LA, guess who was moving up to the Bay Area from LA because he could not stand the bureaucracy that was going on, because he wanted to do it his way. And he did little things to also show his loyalty to the people that brought him this Star Wars world. You know, he went back and gave some bonuses to the actors, and he gave some more money to James Earl Jones, you know, because he went uncredited at first, you know, and so he was loyal to the people that helped him, just like Al was loyal to the people that supported him. So they are alike in so many ways that people don't understand if you really look back at the early history of George Lucas and the crap that he went through Hollywood, trying to do it his way and not being told the way that they should do it. And look what he did for himself. And now that's why he moved up to Marin County. That's why he wanted to get out of LA, because, you know, and I don't think he went back to the Directors Guild because of that. You know, he got ostracized.
That's a great call. You know, George Lucas was so anti-establishment. And that's exactly what Al Davis was, right? Like, I mean, we just saw it play out last night. Like, he didn't view himself nor consider himself part of that group. You know what I mean? And neither did George Lucas, aside from, you know, his buddies like Spielberg and Coppola and like a handful of others. You know what I mean? And you could say the same for Al Davis. There was a handful of owners that he, you know, met minds with, but outside of that, he was anti kind of the whole thing. And the thing that's, again, they're so uniquely tied that we heard it last night, that like Al's vision is ultimately what played out. Like, that establishment that was working against him was off. Al's vision was the one that actually happened. Same thing with George Lucas. From not only from the filmmaking, but from the merchandising. Like, you look at like the reason that he sold for Lucasfilm for $4 billion to Disney wasn't because of his movies. It was because of the merchandising that, I mean, I don't even know what
he was pressured. He was pressured to sell. Like, they were going to give him more money to promote the film or whatever if he were to give up his merchandising rights. And he said no. And that helped him fund Empire Strikes Back. And eventually he paid for a lot of that himself. He paid for the prequel trilogy out of his own pocket, pretty much.
which is, it's crazy. And that's effectively what Al Davis has done, right?
Yeah.
Or what Al Davis did through his, like everything was, it was self-sourced, man. It's absolutely brilliant. All right, before we move on from that to like some other Raider links in there, Aaron, you got any more final thoughts about George Lucas, Al Davis, kind of the whole correlation and commonality between them?
I said fight on because I wanted to honor George Lucas from being a graduate from the film school of the University of Southern California. And, you look at the villainy throughout the Star Wars trilogy, and I can't help but think that OJ was a huge impetus for the villains in the Star Wars universe. Obviously, there's no direct correlation, but it's funny to think of. I've got nothing, Murph.
Except we haven't seen Darth
OJ
Vader.
did it.
We haven't, except we haven't seen Darth Vader hurdling people in airports.
But the heads have been lopped off in the series, though. So I don't know. Draw your own conclusions. Talk amongst yourselves.
He was making, rebel troopers hurtle through space and stuff.
There you go. Yeah.
Stormtroopers have been known to be fitted in Bruno Mali's. That's all I can say. Have you ever stopped to look at a stormtrooper's footwear?
Ooh, that's a deep cut. Oh, yes.
Deep
Well,
cut.
Kevin has. Yeah, I haven't, but
Oh,
Kevin has, I know.
Oh, yeah.
Only Kevin would know.
Hey, how about this? Speaking of stormtroopers, here's a line that always bugs me in The Rise of Skywalker, and I think it's Poe when the stormtroopers, which are, I love stormtroopers, when all of a sudden they take off with their jetpacks, and he goes, "They fly now? They fly now." Like, did you guys not ever see the Clone Wars? These dudes have been flying for like 20 years. Anyways, so I digress. All right.
No, you're right.
The story group did not see the Clone Wars, apparently.
Apparently not. All right, so let's keep it about the Raiders. Let's keep on this theme. This is fun. So the Raiders' new stadium, of course, Allegiant Stadium, is nicknamed the Death Star, and it earned its nickname early. Folks started just referring to it as the Death Star, and then it was finally confirmed by Mark Davis. The opening speech at Allegiant Stadium, the Raiders are populating the field. Of course, there's no one else in there, but the Raiders are out there practicing, and he says, "Welcome to the Death Star, where our opponents' dreams come to die." And I watching this. Like, you got this dude standing up on this, pedestal podium thing, whatever, way high up, 2-3 decks up high in the air. And then his players are down on the field. It reminded me so much of that, General Hux scene from Force Awakens, where he's rallying the troops and the Raiders are all down there and they're going, yeah. There was so much symmetry around that. I thought it was really great. But there are some fans that said "Oh, the Death Star, the Death Star blew up. The Death Star blew up, man. That's not a good nickname. It should have been the Black Pearl, or it should have been this, or it should have been that."
Yeah, name it after something that also is cursed.
Yeah, exactly. Something that's cursed. Or the Buccaneers, they don't do the pirate thing. Or they literally have a pirate ship in their end zone. I love the idea. And I'm assuming what your guys' answers are going to be. But Aaron, speak on that. The idea that now the Raiders' home stadium is called the Death Star.
Look, the Death Star is a concept, and the greatness of the Raiders is in its future. You heard the patriarch say that before. You've heard the current owner reiterate. It's a concept. So I can conceptualize it. Don't get too deep with it. It's the Death Star. Period. Kevin, you in on it?
Yeah, Q said it the best. It's great. It's a concept. Don't read too deep into it. It sounds cool. Death Star's menacing, and it's just freaking cool.
Freaking cool. It's the ultimate base for the ultimate bad guys.
Exactly.
And that's what we are.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah.
It stops there. It doesn't matter what happens after that. Not to mention the fact that they blew it up, and guess what? They built another one. And you guys are more well versed in the EU than I am, but they built 7 of them.
Yeah.
It wasn't like they just built one. You know what I mean? So yeah, I love it. I think it's perfect. So
that's no small moon.
That's a battle station. So when John Gruden was posed with the question about the Star Wars question about it being called the Death Star and whatnot. John said, I think it's a cool name for our stadium, but he also said, I don't give a damn about Star Wars. And you know what? That makes me happy. Like, we're fans. Like, it's not my job to like do anything other than my job, but like I have plenty of time in my spare time to watch the Raiders, to watch Star Wars movies, to enjoy all these other things. I'm glad John Gruden doesn't give a damn about. I don't want him to give a damn about anything else but the Raiders.
That's our job.
That's our job, right? And so, I mean, any issues with what he said?
No. Look, John Gruden doesn't give a damn about Dairy Queen. He doesn't give a damn about Starbucks. He doesn't give a damn about Chevrolet. He needs to give a damn about the Raiders. That's what I care about. And he needs to give a damn about, you know what I'm saying, fixing that defense.
I'll give a damn about Star Wars.
Exactly. Yeah. You leave that to us. You leave the emotion about things to us. Yeah, you just handle that. All right, so some other cool Star Wars and Raiders connections. I'm going to let Kevin lead this segment because he's got the man's jersey hanging up there behind him for those of you that are on the YouTube feed. Kevin, talk to us about the ultimate Raider connections here.
The ultimate Raider connection can be traced through the newest show, The Mandalorian, and that, of course, is Carl Weathers as Grief Karga. Little history about Grief. He's a human male, former disgraced magistrate before becoming an agent of the Bounty Hunters Guild following the collapse of the Galactic Empire. Well, Carl Weathers, of course, most people will know him as in the Rocky films and probably, what is it? Predator, yeah, there you go. But he was also a Raider. He signed with the Raiders as a free agent in 1970, playing a linebacker. Weathers played 7 games for the Raiders in 1970, helping them win an AFC West Division title on their way to their first ever AFC Championship game. He played in 1 game in 1971, but the Raiders released him. I think he went on and did some, he went to Canadian football as well. But while he was playing football, if you look on his card, as both Murf
Kevin's got one. There it is.
On the back, it says at the bottom, serious about pursuing an acting career, Carl attended drama classes in San Francisco State during the off season. And we'll say, well, how did that pan out? Pretty fine, if you ask us. So, he played Apollo Creed, probably his most iconic one. He played Action Jackson as well. Another good action hero movie there. But now Star Wars fans, he is Grief Karga, one of the most beloved characters. And I have his jersey number 49 right behind over here hanging. Awesome. And one of these days, I hope to see him at a Star Wars convention and get him to autograph it.
That is money, Kevin. I love that jersey. And he was great in Predator. Carl Weathers is fantastic. And I love, we've played this on Raiders Fan Radio. There's a clip, if you watch I believe it's from the Star Wars Gallery, or the whatever, Disney Gallery, Mandalorian, whatever that show title is on Disney Plus.
It's the Mandalorian behind the scenes show. Yeah.
Thank you. There you go. Yeah. And so there's one of those episodes where your buddies, Kevin, the 501st comes in. It's the scene where, oh my gosh, what's Giancarlo Esposito? What's his character's name?
Moff Gideon.
Moff Gideon, thank you. It's where Moff Gideon lands his TIE fighter and he's sieging the bar where the Mandalorian and Cara Dune and everybody's in there. And so they're coming in. Those stormtroopers, this is so cool. They're all 501st guys.
Yeah, and a lot of them were from LA, but a lot of them came down from the Bay Area.
Exactly. And so he's talking to this group of freaking stormtroopers and he goes, "Where are you from?" And they're all like, "Oh, we're from San Francisco." And he goes, "Cool, go Oakland." Oh, money, man.
Yep. So I was awesome. Like, yes.
It's so awesome. So Aaron, the Q-Dog Raider, you got any thoughts about Carl Weathers?
No, I mean, it's a great tie-in, and he's another proud Raider. I mean, he's not one of those individuals that shies away from his Raider ties and his Raider lineage. So it's all good, bro.
Yeah, he's. What do you think about that character of Grief Karga?
Honestly, I thought it was a refreshing character. I mean, you didn't know what side of the fence he was going to fall on, whether he's going to be a betrayer or was he going to be, a solid, hookup. Seeing as though he had the inside scoop and apparently attained quite a bit of rank in the uh, in, in the Bounty Hunters Guild or whatever was going on. But I don't want to talk too far over my head. I just enjoyed his character.
I like it too. And I like the, Carl Weathers has a delivery that's a little bit over the top, and I think that works like that, whether he's playing Chubbs and freaking Happy Gilmore, or it's, in this case, in The Mandalorian, like it's that little extra, but that's what Star Wars is. Like, George Lucas was so famous for saying, faster and more intense. Like, do the same thing, but do it faster and more intense. It's that rapid dialogue. It's that ba 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 ba, and it just he harkens back to like a different time, I think. And so I love his delivery. And the other thing I like about Carl Weathers too is that when the last live celebration that they had when they announced The Mandalorian and he had taken the stage and was like, dude is excited to be part of a Star Wars project, and like. I think there's something about us as fans that when we see other people that are actually a part of it, when they're equally excited about something, like that resonates different with us more so than just they're an actor or an actress taking a job or whatever. You know what I mean? Like when you see somebody like that, it's like, or like, I love that idea.
It's like Carl Weathers is the Black William Shatner.
Yeah. There you go. Well said.
He loves being
over the top delivery, but you know what? A heart of gold.
There you go. Absolutely. Well done.
And he's not above a green chick on screen.
All right. So we went from Raiders
or an orange chick. I mean, he's
or whatever. He doesn't discriminate. Yeah, he's worldly. so we talked about the Raiders and Star Wars tie-ins. But now we've got kind of one of our own here. Okay. So we mentioned Kevin at the top of the show. The way that I introduced him was, he's a hardcore Raider fan. He's a hardcore Star Wars fan, and he has blended those two things together and turned himself into the original Star Wars Mandalorian. There are only a handful of folks that have done this, I think, at least well enough to hit that, circuit of when you watch a Raider game, you'll see them on TV, or like, when you see people wanting to take pictures, and I've seen this firsthand a few times, when Kevin's in the room or Kevin's on the scene at a tailgate in his full Mandalorian regalia, everybody comes around to him and wants to take a damn picture. So to me, as far as the Star Wars Raider fan tie-ins, it's Kevin and then our buddy Charles Ibarra, who is Darth Raider. I'll never forget 2011. I went to a Raider game. It was the last home game Al Davis went to. We beat the Jets. I went with my dad. It was Sonny, my cousin Sonny, his dad. It was a whole group of us. And one of the first things I did was I looked down in front of us, and about 10 rows in front of us was Charles dressed up in his Darth Raider gear. And I boogied down there and I wanted to get a picture with him. Like I didn't care about anybody else. I wanted to get a picture with Darth Raider. Like that was such a big deal to me. Kevin, talk a little bit about that. Talk a little bit about your experience, because you've been doing this for a hot minute now. I've sold that lead that you did this before The Mandalorian was The Mandalorian to what pop culture knows him to be nowadays. Talk about that. What was the inception? What was the idea? What was your, obviously we know your influence, but what drove you to that?
Yeah, I remember seeing Charles as Darth Raider at games, and I remember the first time I went to a Raider game, he had his own tailgate section, and he had this big inflated Darth Vader thing. And I went there and I got a picture with him and stuff. But this was before I did the Mandalorian thing. I was kind of doing like an Indiana Jones Raider thing instead. And I was decided, I really liked seeing what these super fans were doing. And I was inspired by what he was doing as a Star Wars fan, because I remember seeing this picture of this fan walking around O.Co Stadium back in either the late 70s or the 80s, and he has a Darth Vader helmet on, and he's holding up a Raider shield that says defense. And to me, I don't know who that is, and that was before Charles's time, so I don't know if he knows who that was, but that was the first time I saw a Raider / Star Wars mashup. And I'd love to know who that guy is. I have that picture of it on my phone, because to me, that's where it started. And so 2013, I was like, you know what? I want to do a Mandalorian thing. not necessarily Boba Fett. I want to do a Mandalorian style. And I was, I'm part of the actual 501st, and I have friends in the Mandalorian costume group as well. I love the Mandalorian look. So I bought some Mandalorian armor and I customize it. And the reaction that I get from fans outweighs what I got before, but you get parents like shoving their kids going, you got to get a picture here when they kind of want to get the picture themselves. And
Yeah.
I'll be honest with you, that costume is very cumbersome to wear. It is not comfortable to wear. I wore that at the Tampa Raiders game when it was 105 degrees in the visitor section. But the response that you get from fans wanting a picture with you negates all of that uncomfortableness that you have, because you see the genuine fandom in their eyes and their excitement that you are combining probably their top two fandoms together, because we've all grown up with Star Wars. And so that's what kind of inspired me. And I remember that date heading to a tailgate there in Tennessee, and you and Sonny calling me over going, get over here. And that's how our wonderful relationship started.
Absolutely,
And I will never forget that. And then of course, driving home after the game and you guys calling me out while you're driving past me,
Well, it was funny because we got to meet you and we talked to you. We learned about the Phantom Podcast Network and we learned about your fandom. And like, we had our Raider tailgate set up. And so of course everybody was flocking to you and to get pictures done. And so we're on our way home, and we live southeast, or where I live is southeast of Nashville. And so do you. You were in Atlanta at the time. So we're traveling the same interstate on the way home. And Sonny goes, hey, look, that guy's got Boba Fett stickers on that car. Hey, look, that guy's got, we're like, oh crap, there's Raider stuff on there too. That's probably Kevin. Probably the guy we just met. And so we rolled up on him.
You were literally podcasting in the car. Because I heard that recording later, and you were like, there's Kevin. I remember that. It was so funny.
Yeah, we were doing like an after show on the way home talking about the game because it was such a great game. The Raiders, if I'm not mistaken, that was Seth Roberts catching a touchdown pass in the back of the end zone to win a game. Like that was like, it was such a freaking amazing day for us. It was the first big tailgate that we ever put on. Like, I mean, that was just such a great day. And then, we caught you on the way home, man. That was
Charles Ybarra as Darth Vader was one of the inspirations. And I mean, there's so many great fan costumes and, the Violator and Grillarilla and everyone else. But that one was Star Wars. And I love how he has the football pads with the spikes and he's just badass. I love it.
And what I liked about Charles, and I know you're being humble by shifting the attention back to him, because I mean, again, Kevin, your costume is incredible, and seen you now doing it a few times, and the attention that you get is top notch. But Charles is the first guy that when I went down there and took that picture, he was the first guy I ever saw doing an Al Davis fist.
Yeah.
And now granted, that's a kind of a Darth Vader-y move too.
Yep.
But like now, like when I take Raider pictures, it's all like, and it came from him. It came from Charles.
Force crush.
Right? Like it's like that's like, I mean, that symbol of power and Al Davis. And we just watched Al Davis in 30 for 30 with his fist was down low because he was getting ready to sock Pete with it. But like, yeah, man, that great call out there with Charles. Aaron, tell us a little, have you had any experience with any super fans? Like I'm sure you have, because you've been to a million Raider games, but like, is there anyone that ever stood out to you that you're like, oh, I got to go get a picture with that guy? Or you shoved your kid out in front of you like Kevin says?
Sure. Mabry, I mean, Violator.
There we go.
That was one. Captain Jack, whenever we were out there, me and Mojo at the Steelers game, I think it was 2018. And, Grillarilla, I mean, you can't help but encounter him. I mean, he's one of the two mega super fans. So, those are the guys that I remember. But, as RFR grows, we're the guys that, are starting to get, those desired picks with and everything like that, man. So, we owe it all to you, Murf. I mean, humbly, but, we're those guys now.
You have nurtured a culture around your own podcast that has become family, and we'll always be grateful for that and appreciate that.
Oh, thank you guys, man. That's incredibly kind of you to say. And that's, I don't even know how to respond to that. Thank you very much, both of you, for saying that. Yeah. And it's humbling when people want to take a picture with you because they're like, hey, it's Murf, or look, it's Aaron, or whatever. Like, it's definitely a really cool thing to be a part of. And I agree with Aaron. To me, like, as far as super fans go, like, it's not even 1 and 1A, it's 1 and 1. And it's Mark, and it's Wayne, it's Gorilla, and it's Violator.
Yeah.
And I'm so thankful that Violator got voted to go to the Super Bowl this year. And I know that he's now in the finalist for the top 3. So anybody that's listening to this podcast, like today, what are we at, like February 5th or whatever, like, vote Wayne in, man. Like, he's got a shot to be named the best of the fans that's getting.
I've been voting. Have you
been voting? Okay.
Yeah, oh yeah.
Kevin, do you kind of agree? Now, you're like, obviously that's not to disparage your cosplay adventure, but it's Wayne and Mark. Do you agree? Is that those two guys and everybody else kind of falls in from there?
Yeah. I do want to give a shout out to my friend Ken Webb, who was the Afro Raider, and he was one of the most kind men to bring me into the nation and show me around all of the tailgating and. But yeah, it's you see Violator, and you see, of course, Gorilla, and Violator's he's just the way that he looks, and such a great, genuine guy as well. As well as Gorilla Mark. Mark is great too. He and his wife Marilyn are awesome. Just wonderful people. And I just want to say this real quick, that there was this big misnomer and misconception that these super fans were horrible people because the Raiders were scary and but these super fans are not. They're the most wonderful people, and they're my family now. They are my Raider family, and they've treated me so well, and they are so much fun to be with. And when my wife passed away back in 2013, Raider Nation was behind me, and these people stepped up and reached out to me, and I'll never forget it.
Appreciate you sharing that, Kevin. Man, that's what it's all about, man. We say this thing is La Familia, and it's no joke.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. It really is family, and so appreciate you sharing that. All right, we got a couple more segments here. Gosh, guys, thank you for hanging in, man. This has been an absolute blast. 2.5 hours later.
Everyone's still up. They're listening.
Okay, because I could go another hour. I know we won't. I'm going to respect your time, but like, this is just too freaking fun. So let's talk a little bit about the time. So we'll keep it Raiders and Star Wars themed before we close out. There was a time where Al Davis had the opportunity to meet the greatest villain in a galaxy far, far away. And there's Al meeting Darth Vader. Okay. And so Al meets Darth Vader, but there's a little bit of a backstory here to this, much like John Gruden said, I don't give a damn about Star Wars. Well, Al Davis really didn't give him much of a damn about Star Wars either, did he, Kevin?
Nope, he did not. He had no idea I'm sure he maybe heard of it, but he had no idea who was in it or what was going on. But because Star Wars and Star Wars fans and Raider fans were starting to adopt the Raiders as this thing, and when you see the Raiders, the villains of the NFL and the most iconic villain of all time, to be able to come together as one, maybe didn't go quite as you would expect, but it was definitely a moment. And I love that picture. Even if you don't know the backstory behind it, it's still such an iconic picture, because you have the so-called maverick villain of the NFL with the ultimate villain in cinematic history shaking hands there at Coliseum.
So one of our favorites that we refer to often on our show on Raiders Fan Radio, we talk a lot about Rich Eisen, does a great show and features so many great Raiders on there. Howie Long, Charles Woodson, like some of the best. And also once in a while, he'll feature Amy Trask on there. And Amy Trask told the story, kind of gave us some background on this meeting between these two, as Kevin said, these two ultimate villains shaking hands one day. And let's check in with Amy and Rich Eisen.
I saw this tweet this morning, and it just gave me my first laugh of the day. We always need one of those. It's a photograph of Al Davis shaking hands with Darth Vader, and the story that came with it from the post of the person who posted it, I needed to hear in person. Longtime front office executive with the Oakland Raiders. Now chairman of Big Three with Cube, one of our favorite guests, Amy Trask, here on the Rich Eisen Show. How are you, Amy?
I'm doing well. How are you, Rich?
Oh, I love that photograph and that post. Please, the floor is yours.
Well, thank you. And it was quite a moment. We had entered into a sponsorship agreement for that game. It was 2004, and we'd entered into it. It was a night game, and we had everyone there. Darth Vader was there. The stormtroopers were there. I mean, everybody was there as part of this sponsorship. So pregame, Al's on the field. He's watching warm-ups, and the executives that are part of this sponsorship deal are there, and there's Darth Vader. So I walked up to Al on the sideline. I was a few feet away from him, and I interrupted him. He's watching not only our team warm up, but he loved to watch the visiting team warm up and do a little scouting. And I interrupted him, which, as you know, he loved that. And I said, I need you to say hi to Darth Vader. And he looks at me. I just smile ear to ear when I remember the expression on his face. I said, no, look, it's part of a sponsorship. We've entered in the agreement. I really need you to do this. I need you to come say hi to Darth Vader. And I can't say on air because I don't want to get you in trouble his precise response, but it was, who the blank, and blank rhymed with, let's say, truck, is Darth Vader. And I sort of had to explain, oh, don't worry about it, sponsorship, movie, R2-D2, what, just come say hello. And he did it, and he was gracious, and that picture was just quite a moment. It sort of captures it, right?
Yeah.
So there we go. So there's Al Davis meeting Darth Vader.
Who the F is Darth Vader?
Love it, man. Oh, I love it, man.
Yeah, I'm fine that he doesn't know who Darth Vader is. He's football 24/7. So
absolutely, just like John Gruden, that's all we care about, man. Aaron's got that banner hanging up behind him that says 3-time Super Bowl champions. We want 4, and you don't get the 4 by watching a bunch of Star Wars movies. We want you watching film, right? All right, so there we go. So there's a good story from Amy Trask. All right, gentlemen. Let's close out this freaking so much fun, man. I'm telling you, I could do this for a lot longer. But let's close it out. Let's wrap it up here. First off, let me thank you both for your time tonight. Let me thank you for your fandom. Thank you for your Raider fandom. I thank you for your Star Wars fandom. I thank you for the contributions that you have given our network and Raiders Fan Radio over now many years. The both of you guys, like, it doesn't get more OG and made men than you two. And so the idea that we can get on here and to talk about not just the Raiders, but talk about Star Wars, another thing that the three of us are incredibly huge fans of, has just been an absolute blast, man. And so thank you for your time tonight. I appreciate you. And so let's get to this last couple questions here. First, so it's kind of a two-parter, right? So it's one and then the inverse of it. What Star Wars characters would make great Raiders, and what Raiders would make good Star Wars characters? Kevin, let's start off with you.
Well, first of all, I see Chewbacca as like the water boy running back. I mean, just give him the ball and let him run. Seriously. I could definitely see that. I could see Han Solo as in the pocket quarterback. I could kind of see that going on as well. And let's see. I think I could see oh gosh. I could see Lando as a receiver as well. Just a great slot receiver, just taking it in there. But I could see him just always being there in front of the camera, just talking his game, talking with the reporter, hey, what's going on? That type of thing. So that's what Star Wars characters I think can make great Raiders. So
I dig it. Aaron, what about you?
I could see Cleveland Farrell as an incinerated Rebel Alliance soldier. Maybe one of the soldiers that went up against Darth Vader on the transport ship whenever he went in there and he got busy with the lightsaber, cut down several times, minced. I could see, I don't know, Poe Dameron is maybe third and Poe. I mean, I could see him, extending the chains, Who else we got out there?
You got Star Wars characters.
See, Jonathan Abram as a bounty hunter. Very undisciplined.
I like it.
But dangerous.
A headhunter. Yeah.
A headhunter, so to say.
I like it. That's a good one. That's a good one.
And this little person right here is my 6-year-old daughter. He's been chomping at the bit. Say hello, Raider Nation.
Hello.
All right.
Hello.
Daddy, can
This
you
is
get
Grayson.
candy for mommy?
Yes, you can have all the candy you want.
Grayson,
We're
who's your
recording.
favorite Star Wars character? Is she gone
She
already?
doesn't have a favorite Star Wars character, but she thinks Cleveland Farrell sucks.
I wish I had my iPad handy with the soundboard so I could play your F to the E to the R to the R to the E to the L to the L. It ain't
I've got
Pearl.
some
It ain't Pearl.
I've got some nominations for Raiders that would make great Star Wars players.
Okay,
Star
go
Wars
for
characters.
it. Go for it, Kevin. While I grab the iPad.
Al Zato as an ancient Sith master. You know,
Oh,
I
yeah.
could see him just laying it down and not taking any crap from anyone and showing the right way. So I can see Cliff Branch as an experienced seasoned rebel pilot. Think about Cliff Branch, going in there,
Oh, like
blowing up the fourth Death Star, maybe, or teaching the young pilots the way. Maybe he taught Poe Dameron. Let's put it that way. Okay.
There we go.
I can see Madden as the hardened rebel leader, the one that's just seen it all, and he's the master strategist, and he's the one that actually met the Bothans before they died. He's the one that maybe taught the Bothans to die for their cause. I could see that.
There you go.
But my last but not least, one of my favorite defensive player of all time is Phil Villapiano. I can see him as kind of like that rogue Qui-Gon Jinn Jedi.
Yeah.
Him saying, the Force is with you, the Force surrounds you, and we hate the Chiefs.
Let's go. Oh, that's awesome, man. I love it. So here's the aforementioned soundbite.
F to the E to the R to the R to the E to the L to the L. It ain't Pearl.
It's one of our favorites, man. We play that on the show all the time. All right, so I'll give you this, and I'm Aaron. I'm surprised you didn't land on this. I know you're a big Yoda guy. Like
Yeah.
Yoda, that's the philosopher, right? Like that's your general manager. That's the guy that assembles the talent. That's the guy that assembles the Jedi Council, man. Like there's your general manager, and Obi-Wan is your coach. Like that's the guy you want calling the X's and O's, man. He's the general on the field, and so I like Yoda as a general manager and Obi-Wan as a coach. As a quarterback, it's Luke Skywalker, guys. Like that's your starting quarterback, man. You got the freaking, you know what I mean? The chosen one. That's your quarterback, man. And so
That's Snake Stabler.
Tell you one thing, he's not fumbling the ball out of the end zone, that's for sure.
Yeah.
No,
No touchbacks through the end zone.
he's forcing
Against
that
the
thing back.
Cowboys.
He's forcing that thing back to him, man. No, as soon as he starts to lose it, it's coming right back, man. Absolutely.
Yep.
All right, but
And I could see him as a mobile quarterback too, definitely. So
heck yeah, man. You see the way that guy jumps around? Absolutely, he could be a mobile quarterback. All right, the last one I'm going to give you, the guy that there's a Raider that could be in Star Wars. Slam dunk is freaking Matuzak.
oh gosh, yeah.
Like
yeah.
Matuzak could be in any Cantina scene from the sequel trilogy to the OT. Like he could be even in the freaking prequel trilogy when they
He
walk
was
in.
Sloth. Come on, the Goonies.
Exactly. Like when
Yeah.
like when they're walking into the when Obi-Wan and Anakin are walking in Attack of the Clones, and he goes, "Where are we going, Master?" Well, for a drink, of course.
Yes.
You could totally see Matuzak being like one of the heavies in the room right there, man. So I think Matuzak he's timeless when it comes to that stuff.
I
And
could
so-
see him as one of the also the guys that are part of the Rogue Squadron in Rogue One, one of those like dirty rebel guys, especially when you see him in the movie Ice Pirates. He's got that kind of pirate thing going on. I could see him one of those guys, like one of the demolition guys, gives himself up here. He blows something up and he dies, heroically.
Absolutely. And I'm pretty sure he was the Rancor handler. Like that's kind of John Matuzak. Like that.
Alakili, yep.
I got one for you.
All right.
I got Eric Harris, our woeful free safety, as Dak in the Hoth Assault.
I could take on the Empire all by myself.
There's one of your quotes right there.
Famous last words, bruh.
Eric Harris was only good against San Diego every other year.
Amazing. Or you could listen, not trying to build too much or steal any thunder there, but you know what? He could also be Biggs, because how many times do we see our cornerbacks turning around going, "Blasted Harris, where are you?"
I'll give you props, Murf. Yeah. You saw my
All right.
obscurity. You raised me.
Oh,
I love
gentlemen.
it.
Hey, I can't tell you how much this has been so much fun tonight. We've got almost 3 hours. You might have to make this a 2-parter tonight. Let's go to final thoughts, final words. Let's start off with you, Aaron the Q-Dog Raider.
Yes, the hit list. We've got Brian Johnson, Kathleen Kennedy, and Jar Jar Binks. Back to you.
Kevin. That was amazing.
Can we also put the story group too? That would be kind of the sequel story. group.
Ryan
Can we put that on
Johnston.
there?
I'm sorry. Ryan Johnson heads my hit list, man. No doubt.
His mama named
oh.
him Ryan. I'm going to call him Brian.
Oh man, God. How about Benicio del Toro? Can you put him on the hit list too? I don't know what his character was in that.
That's all about, man. He's
I
great,
know,
man.
right? Great actor, terrible writing.
Hey, man.
Terrible writing.
Kevin, final thoughts before we get out.
First of all, Q, great job for bringing this up to it, and thank you, of course, for including me in this, man. This is a great idea. This is this has really been so much fun. It's also been very cathartic knowing what is going to be happening this weekend. And I want to say thank you, Murf, for everything that you've done. This has been so much fun, just hanging out with you, and having a chance to actually be in the Murf's fan cave and being able to podcast with you, and you come on our network and talking about the Star Wars. Star Wars is my first love. Star Wars, and then it became Raiders, basically, and so being able to celebrate these together on this show means a lot to me. So thank you very much, you two.
Absolutely, man. Feelings mutual, man. And thank you for all the hospitality you've extended my way over the years, and look forward to continuing that partnership. And hey, don't forget about me on that Kevin Smith podcast.
Oh yeah. No, you're the go-to. Yeah.
Aaron the Q-Dog Raider, man. Love hearing you on Raiders Fan Radio each and every week. But so much fun to get a chance to talk to you live. And thanks for hanging in there. Tell Grayson we appreciate her patience for stealing her dad for 3 hours. And so, man, you guys have a great night. Go Raiders. F the Chiefs. F the Buccaneers. But always, we're going to celebrate the galaxy far, far away. Gentlemen, thank you so much. This has been an absolute blast tonight. Can't appreciate your friendship enough and conversation enough. And go Raiders.
That's right. Friends don't let friends root for the Chiefs.